Great. Well, good evening, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Hope everyone's having a good week. Excited to see some familiar names and some new names on tonight's Amplify session. Thanks for those who attended last week. For those who were unable to, hopefully you got the recording. If you need the recording, please feel free to reach out to us or let us know in the chat, and Josh, Sam, or Tristan will go ahead and make note of that so we can get that to you. Um, for those who were not on last week's recording, or on webinar, my name's Hayden Ron. I serve as the Senior Director of Fraternity Growth for Delta Upsilon. I oversee fraternity membership, recruitment, growth, recruitment support, expansion. Here with my growth team, Josh Smith, Sam Kleeman, and Tristan Cruz. Those are our leadership consultants. Um, Really excited to be spending time with you all tonight as we talk about creating a recruitment plan. Obviously, last week was talking about those 10 tactics that lead to a successful recruitment. And so we'll reference that a little bit tonight here. And then moving forward, if we're looking into next week, talking about how are we implementing our recruitment plan in that last session. Before we jump in, a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat. We've got Josh, Sam, and Tristan monitoring the chat and making sure that those questions get answered for you throughout the evening. If at any point throughout the evening you want to potentially set up a um, recruitment coaching call, put that in the chat as well. And again, we'll make note of that and we'll make sure to reach out to you to get that call set up. And other than that, really excited to jump into talking about what creating a recruitment plan looks like for your chapters. So to kick us off, just a quick quote here. Thinking about recruitment planning, really, I think this embodies what we're thinking about on why it's important to create that recruitment plan moving forward. So, recruitment plan is that blueprint for success. It ensures that your chapter grows with members who are aligned with fraternity's missions and values. Obviously, within that recruitment plan, we're doing everything we can to ensure we're finding not only the amount of individuals that we've set forth within that plan, but then also the quality of individual that goes along with what the chapter and the fraternity's mission and values are there. So we're going to talk about how we're and what we're incorporating into a plan this evening. Our agenda for tonight is going to really cover five different key pieces of a recruitment plan. First, that recruitment team. Second, that goal setting. Third, membership criteria. Fourth, that timing and scheduling. And then lastly, measuring success. After we've talked through kind of those five different sections, Josh will actually present a recruitment template that him and Sam and Tristan will use with chapters that they're working with, and that we'll all share out after the fact here as well with this recording, that you all can use to really develop what your recruitment plan looks like if you all don't already have one. So Josh will take some time to run through what that looks like. We'll have some time for questions at the end, and then we'll wrap things up to talk about what that next session is going to look like next week. So to kick us off, let's think about the recruitment team. Last week we talked about one of our big tactics in order to be successful is to actually have a recruitment team. Great. Now when we're creating a plan, we really need to think about what that recruitment team should look like, what that recruitment team could look like for you all within that plan. So three kind of key areas here. The first one, that recruitment team being a collection of committed, and I think that's really important, committed chapter members who all bring different strengths to the table. I've seen recruitment teams who are, seven different individuals, and maybe half those guys are really committed to this idea of really diving in and supporting recruitment at a higher level than just a general member. That can cause a lot of issues. So ensuring that as the VP of recruitment or as somebody who is assisting or leading recruitment, that you're finding those committed individuals, right? Even if it's that just four core group of guys, that's going to be the difference in really creating that plan and executing that plan in the right way. I think the other key piece here is those different strengths. So you want individuals who are bringing different perspectives or who have different strengths on the team. If we're thinking about, for example, myself, Sam, Josh, and Tristan being, let's say, a recruitment team, we're all going to bring different strengths and kind of how we view things and what we can do for our recruitment at our chapter. So if we're a chapter and we've got our recruitment team, Tristan is an expert in social media, so we're going to make sure that he's on our social media. He's posting, he's reaching out, he's DMing, he's doing those things that are really going to allow for us to be visible in the social media space. Josh, he's really going to be able to think about, what different events are we going to have? How do we plan those events? What are we going to do with those events? How are those going to bring in potential new members? So really thinking and looking to him to be really event and logistics heavy. And then Sam, guru, and just having a lot of one-on-one meetings, talking to guys, really building genuine relationships. So utilizing his strengths in understanding how can we best get him to really interact with guys throughout the recruitment process. And so collectively, we're going to be able to create something that is going to cover all our bases and allow for us to be as successful as possible. That goes into that second piece. Each member of the team should have clearly defined roles. So yeah, you can have a recruitment team of five, and if you're saying, "Hey, we're the recruitment team, let's get to work," it's not going to be as successful as saying, "Hey, here's our group of five." Every single person has something that they are responsible for that holds them accountable, that allows for them to have an active role in the plan that we are creating and ultimately executing. So, right, as the VP of recruitment, I'm overseeing all of that. Then I maybe have my assistant VP of recruitment, or I have my recruitment chairs, and each recruitment chair may have a specific role or thing that they're really focused on. Just like we talked about, right? So Tristan might be my recruitment chair and he's my social media guy, right? And so we have a very clear definition of what his work is, right? Josh maybe being my event guy, I have a very clear definition of what that looks like. Sam being my names list guy, he's keeping up to date on all our names list, keeping that list up to date, doing that outreach, all of those pieces. So again, really important that we are thinking about what those roles are when we are creating this recruitment plan for our chapters. And ultimately, they should be that team that's assisting in developing and executing your recruitment plan. So as we go through these next four, you should be looking and turning to them to have those conversations, have those really in-depth idea sharing, strategy sharing, and understanding how are we creating the right plan, and then ultimately how are we executing and implementing that moving forward. Big piece with the recruitment team. And as we've always said this, you're not doing recruitment alone. So that's why it's really important that they're part of that plan and how they are executing each thing and how are you delegating and utilizing their different abilities. And I will say this now, and I will continue to say this. This is a team that you should be meeting with regularly. If you have a recruitment team and you are not meeting with them on a weekly basis, then that shift needs to happen, right? So find that 30 minutes, find that 45 minutes, find that hour time every single week where you can meet and have really dedicated conversations going through creating that plan, executing that plan, helping all folks understand how they can be a part of that plan and how you can be successful as a chapter when it comes to recruitment. The second piece is goal setting. So when we're creating a recruitment plan, we need to be very, very clear on what our goals are moving forward in each semester or on a yearly basis. If you have yet to really think and sit down and understand what those goals are, now's the best time to do it as you go into spring recruitment, as you look at the year ahead, knowing kind of what that membership looks like. So, in order to create those goals, how are we properly setting them? First and foremost, we need to assess chapter membership health and understand the membership needs of the chapter. So, I talk a lot about this with groups. I know Josh, Sam, and Tristan do the same thing. We're looking at, okay, what's the overall membership, right? So how many members do we actually have? How many members do we have graduating? How many members are juniors, sophomores, freshmen, seniors, right? How are we taking all of that information and saying, okay, moving forward, where do we need to be? Where do we want to be? And what goals are going to get us there, right? So if we are a chapter of 30 and we know that 10 guys are graduating this upcoming May, our goals need to be set that at the bare minimum, we need to make sure we're filling those 10 spots. Have we done that already? If not, what are we doing in order to get there? And then on top of that, where do we want to be? Great. Well, we want to be a chapter of 45. Great. So what do we now need to be doing and what goals do we need to be setting in order to get to that chapter of 45 by this time next year? And so really thinking about what that looks like and assessing that chapter membership health is incredibly important. If you have questions around, well, what's the best way for me to do that and how do I incorporate into this plan I'm creating, reach out, ask one of us, put it in the chat. We'd be happy to follow up with you because we're going to be able to look at those numbers for you as well and help you really think about what are those goals that we're setting for the chapter moving forward. The second piece is incredibly important. We're ensuring that those recruitment goals are consistently communicated to the chapter and very clear. I think a lot of the times chapters run into, well, yeah, the recruitment team knows our goal. We have a goal of 10, but it's not communicated consistently or clearly with the chapter. And now the rest of the chapter may think, hey, our goal needs to be 5 this spring. Well, no, that's actually lower than what we need it to be or what we want it to be. And so when you're creating that plan, you need to ensure that you are communicating what those goals are moving forward. Josh will show you kind of how you can incorporate that into your plan and what that looks like for you. But we need to be clear with every single member that if our goal is to recruit 10 guys in the spring semester, we need to be communicating that to the entire general membership, and we need to make sure we are consistent in that communication that our goal is to get 10 for this semester. Because if not, then everyone's not really going to know what's going on. There's going to be some confusion. There might be some apathy. You know, why are you asking me to do this? We've got enough P&Ms on our list. Why are we having this extra event? We already have 5 guys who have accepted bids. Well, no, we're looking for 5 more. But if the chapter doesn't understand that and that's not built into your recruitment plan, then you're going to create that confusion and create that disconnect. And the last piece is incredibly important as well. It's creating those benchmarks that will allow for you to intentionally check on these goals that you've set for yourself, but also measure, and we'll talk about measuring success, measure where you are at within your goal setting, within that recruitment plan. So you're saying, hey, we need to get 20 guys this spring semester. We need to get 7 guys this spring semester. Great, let's benchmark that. If we know that recruitment starts today, where do we need to be by next Friday in terms of amount of bids that have been extended, amount of bids that have been accepted, number of P&Ms that are on our P&M list? All of those pieces need to be built into that benchmarking and into that recruitment plan. And again, Josh will show you how we can very easily and very clearly do that within the recruitment plan template that he has created in conjunction with Sam. And so allowing for you all to really think about what those goals are. And a lot of those goals too are not just ultimate recruitment goals. Those goals also include how many bids do we need to extend to get the amount of individuals that we want ultimately to be our new members. With that, how many P&Ms need to be in our P&M names list. So when you're creating that plan, you need to just think through all of those different things in terms of goals. Yes, I want 10 different guys or 10 new members this spring. However, that means I need to extend 25 bids, knowing that not everyone's going to accept the bid, right? And if they do, great. Instead of 10, now I've got 25. I've got a good problem on my hands. If that creates an issue, it shouldn't create an issue. It just means you were way more successful than you may have thought initially. Um, and with that, okay, if I've got to extend 25 bids to get 10, I need to go have a names list. And we talked about this last week of probably about 250, 300 names, right? And so that is all part of that goal setting and assessing where the chapter is at, what the chapter is needing, but then also understanding how we are going to get to those numbers that we've set for ourselves and creating those clear benchmarks on when we need to be where so that we can assess and make any changes as necessary. Third piece is membership criteria. So when you're creating your recruitment plan, you need to think about, okay, what are those things that we need to be looking for in potential new members as a chapter. So in your plan, as you're creating it, we need to establish clear criteria that the chapter is looking for in PNMs, and you need to share that with the chapter. Again, chapters who do this are way more successful in finding both the amount of individuals and the quantity of the quantity, that would be the quantity, and the quality of individuals that you are needing and wanting. When you don't have that clear established criteria as you're creating that plan, there can become, again, some of this disconnect. Well, Josh is thinking we need more guys who just want to play intramurals all the time. And while that might be a great piece, that's only one criteria point, but we're also looking for guys who are excelling academically. We're also looking for guys who are involved on campus. We're also looking for individuals who want to take on leadership opportunities. We're also looking for individuals who are involved in the community, right? So there's these things that we need to be clear on what the chapter is looking for. That also will let the chapter know what are things that we're not necessarily looking for, right? And allow for conversations as you think about membership bidding to be a lot more productive and a lot clearer moving forward when we've incorporated this into our recruitment plan and that we've shared this with the chapter. I will share this every single time with anyone who asks. If the only reason that somebody is getting a bid is because they're a super cool, chill dude, that individual should not be getting a bid, right? If Josh comes to me and says, "Hey, Tristan needs to get a bid because he's super cool, he's super chill," and I say, "Okay, tell me a little bit more about him," and that's the only thing he can share. Great. Doesn't mean Tristan can't get a bid, just means we need to have some follow-up conversation about that, right? If Josh says, "Hey, Hayden, Tristan's a super cool, chill guy. I think he fit in well with the chapter." I say, "Okay, what are some things? Tell me a little bit more about Tristan." And he says, "Hey, he's in the honors college. He's on the club soccer team. He's super involved with Habitat for Humanity in the community." I'm going to say, "Awesome. Like that sounds perfect. Let's definitely extend a bid to him." So that criteria is going to help us with those conversations as well. The second piece, and again, build this into that recruitment plan, and this is what's going to allow for you to be successful. Be smart about how the chapter creates this criteria information, and then how it's shared with the recruitment team. Best way to do this, if you have like a chapter builder account, either the chapter's paying for it or your IFC's paying for it. It's super easy to add notes after you've spoken to someone. If not, you maybe just have a shared. Maybe you're using the DU portal, maybe you have a shared document. Make sure that you are adding those notes consistently so that you are collecting that criteria information. Some chapters I've seen have just kind of a checklist that they'll go through every single week with members. The recruitment team will, but you need to be able to have a way to share and collect that information, right? So if we're saying, "Hey, we want somebody who is excelling academically, who has, higher than a 3.0 GPA," what are you doing to collect that? And then what are you doing to share that with the appropriate individuals? A lot of times that's the recruitment team so that they can make those decisions. If we want somebody who is involved on campus, we need to make sure that there's a place that, if Tristan talks to Sam, but I don't necessarily talk to Sam, Tristan has a place to communicate what that information is and how he is involved on campus. So again, building that all into your recruitment plan is going to allow for you all to be a lot more successful in those membership conversations that you have down the line, either with your team or as an entire chapter, since I know every chapter does things a little bit differently there. Third piece is understanding how PNMs can positively or negatively impact, it should say impact the chapter if they were to join. So that's a big piece. And again, building that into your membership criteria, thinking about how, if this individual were to join, would they positively impact the chapter based off just the conversations we have? Could they potentially negatively impact the chapter? I think this is pretty common within all chapters, but should be said. And again, how we build that into the plan is really important, and how we think about it within membership criteria and ensuring that we're having those right conversations to find those individuals that are allowing for us to have more of a positive outlook and potential than anything that has to do negatively with that potential of the P&M there. And if we're thinking about any conversations that we need to have with the PNM based off things that get brought up by chapter members or in conversation with them, this is a great opportunity to do that, both in the positive and the negative, right? So if Sam that, Josh brings something up that he may have hesitations about or objections about when it comes to Sam, allows for us to follow up with those conversations and get a better understanding. If Josh comes to me and says, "Hey, Sam's going to be an amazing leader. He has a lot of these leadership qualities we're looking for." Great. Now we can really tap into that and have some positive conversations and follow up with Sam as well. So when we're thinking about that creation of a recruitment strategy, recruitment plan, membership criteria, along with goal setting, along with that recruitment team, is incredibly vital to ensuring that potential for success. The fourth piece is timing and scheduling. So when we're creating a recruitment plan, we need to be thinking about how are we timing things, how are we scheduling things, what does our calendar look like. I know most chapters do a good job of creating that calendar and creating that timing. So continue to do that if you already have. If you're in the process of doing that, continue to do that. If you're not even thinking about this, start doing it. So the question is like, why is this important? So first and foremost, it's important because it can allow for you to create a schedule and see whether or not you're having various events during various times in various locations, which is incredibly key to successful recruitment, right? If I'm having a wide variety of events during various times because we know people are available, some are available Monday nights, some are available Tuesday mornings, some are available whenever. In various locations, it allows for there to be a wide range of opportunity to engage with potential new members to come to those more formalized events. Obviously, we've talked last week about that formal versus informal strategy. What this also allows for you to do is find those pockets of time where you can have a lot more informal interactions. As you're creating your recruitment plan. So that schedule and timing allows for you to see that all and really have those conversations on what is missing, what needs to be added, maybe what needs to be pulled back a little bit. Second piece is don't be overly aggressive with scheduling and timing. As the VP of recruitment as an undergrad, I was a victim of this. My first recruitment was the fall of 2014. We were a new associate chapter, and I planned an event every single day for 2 weeks because that's how you get out there. That's how you meet PNMs. By day four, my recruitment team came to me and said, "Hayden, guys are burned out. Can we change this up a little bit?" And we had the conversation, and that we did. So sometimes you don't want to be overly aggressive because it really could burn out the chapter. It could burn out the members. They obviously have other things going on. Clearly, recruitment at this time might be a priority and should be a priority, but we also need to understand that chapter members have other things and be respectful of that. But that also opens up the door to say, okay, we might not need a formal event, but it's a great opportunity to go, play informally some basketball at the rec center. And again, that's not necessarily maybe overly aggressive because only a handful of guys we definitely need for that. So that allows for us to open the door a little bit. So just be smart about what that looks like when you're creating your plan. You don't want to do too much. You don't want to do too little. You want to find that right balance. And so when you are creating the timing and the scheduling of everything, you can see that as you're creating that recruitment plan there. And the last piece, share recruitment event schedule early and often and be flexible with both schedule and time. So the flexibility piece just gave you an example, right? If you need to cut back on some things, add some things, switch some things up, that's totally fine. We just need to communicate what that looks like. And we need to make sure we're doing that as soon as possible, both to the PNMs and to chapter members. And then obviously you're sharing your recruitment schedule early and often. That's going to help with membership. Kind of engagement or saying, hey, in 3 weeks, you know that we have a huge recruitment event Tuesday night. Make sure that you have put your time off if you're working. Make sure you block that off if maybe that's when you typically study. Hey, we're going to need you for that hour and a half time block, and we're telling you, 3, 4 weeks ahead of time. If there's any issues, let's have that conversation there. What I find sometimes is that chapters will finish their recruitment schedule a few days before, or they're waiting till school starts to start thinking about it. There are so many things that our chapter members are doing. This is why it's super important to create that schedule now and share that out ahead of time. best practice is you are creating your schedule the semester before, and then you are sharing that out even before that next semester starts. Now we're thinking we're already in the spring semester for a lot of us, or we're gearing up to be in the spring semester. So if you haven't already shared your schedule with your chapter members or with your PNMs, make sure you do that here very soon, so that everyone knows what's happening there. And again, it allows for you to have some good conversation and gives you enough lead time and communicate when recruitment is, what are those expectations, all of those pieces there. Stephen, I see you have a question in the chat on how should we handle budget constraints effectively. That's an amazing question. I think sitting down and understanding initially what your budget is, and adding that into kind of that plan as a whole, and then really seeing, okay, where do we want to put our money? What's important to us? What are the priorities? Josh will talk about, hey, we're listing our priorities there when we're thinking about creating a plan, and having those conversation on, okay, what are some things maybe we can do that's a little bit cheaper? What are some things that we want to put a little bit more money towards? But I think it's really important that once you've created that plan, you're keeping the budget piece in mind, but you're also allowing for yourself to say, okay, ideally, this is what we want to do. This pretty much or hopefully will be within budget. And if we need to be flexible a little bit within that, we can be flexible. Maybe we have some different conversations with our VP of Finance, or maybe our alumni or advisors if we have that opportunity. But really thinking about those pieces holistically, and really thinking about what you're wanting to do. What are maybe some priority events that you want to put a little bit more money to? What are some events we can scale back on? Stephen, I think and this is coming from somebody whose main experience with recruitment is all about we were new. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have funds. We were trying to figure it out. We found things that we knew we could do for free or very cheap. So like basketball, dodgeball, going and playing touch or flag football. We'd go to the residence halls and have meals because we knew like the first year students had meal swipes, and our guys could just pay ad hoc, right? Or maybe somebody in our chapter, was offering their meals up, right? And so there's those opportunities to just be a little creative there. So I think those pieces are key as well. Happy to talk more with you, obviously, if you have any specifics that you're thinking about when it comes to kind of those budget constraints and what that might look like there. All right. And then the last piece is measuring success. So when we're thinking about creating a recruitment plan, we need to think about how are we measuring our success both at the very end, which a lot of the times that means, hey, did we reach our goal number, or didn't we? But then also, how are we measuring success throughout the entire process so that we know where adjustments might need to be made? Are we on track? Are we off track? Do we need to adjust or be adaptable here? Do we need to put more energy and effort into this area? What does all of that look like? So we talked about using those benchmarks. So those benchmarks established will help you understand is if that plan is being successful. And because you're going to say, hey, by this point, we needed X amount of bids out, X amount on our P&M list, X amount of guys accepted. We're not there yet, so we're not necessarily at that level of success we thought we were going to be at. What needs to change? What needs to be tweaked a little bit in order to get to where we need to be at our next benchmark there. Schedule weekly check-ins with recruitment team members. This is going to again allow for you to have the conversation. Hey, are we being successful? Why or why not? Hey, I've got a lot of things in the pipeline, or having a lot of conversations that are going to say, hey, right now it might not feel like we're being very successful, but in a couple of days we will. Again, it allows for you to be adaptable, be flexible in what that looks like. So if you, again, have not yet scheduled those weekly check-ins with your recruitment team members, do so. I've seen groups, and I've done it myself, where it's been, collectively, we've had our whole group or recruitment team meeting on maybe a Thursday night, but throughout the week, I'm texting and just checking in with each team member individually, just to make sure they're on top of what they are doing there, and what their goals are and what their roles and responsibilities are. And last piece gives you a chance to adjust as necessary to allow for greatest opportunity for success. I view this as like it's halftime in a football game, in a basketball game, right? We're gonna need to readjust and see, okay, what's working, what's not working. Is our game plan actually something we want to continue to follow through with, or do we need to make some tweaks here and there, or do we need to really kind of dive in and readjust this game plan because there was an unexpected thing that happened, or this is happening that we weren't too sure about. So again, that's where you're going to need to make those adjustments so that you can be successful moving forward. Uh, I've seen it. The chapters who are able to make adjustments, able to really measure where they're at, able to hit those benchmarks and think about, hey, have I hit them? Have I not? Again, have more potential for success. When we're thinking about chapters who don't and they just kind of stick to the game plan no matter what, they sometimes will struggle, right? Because they're not taking everything into account. They're not having those check-ins. They're not seeing, hey, are we being successful? We're just going to go with the game plan and hope it works. That's not going to lead you to much success. If you're again checking in throughout the process, you have the greater opportunity to find those guys and hit your goals that you've set for yourself. All right. So those are really the five big, key pieces. There's a lot more to be added to a recruitment plan, obviously, but I think when we're thinking about creating it, those are five areas that you're really going to want to think about, add into your recruitment plan. Think about how those are being incorporated throughout the process. Next week, obviously, we'll talk about how are we implementing each of these. We've talked a little bit about how we're implementing them, but we'll go a little bit more in depth next week. But what we also did want to do was share with you all kind of a recruitment plan blueprint. So, Josh and Sam have been working with a handful of our chapters on recruitment planning, kind of what are their goals for the spring, how can we get there, and in doing so, creating these recruitment plans. And so, wanting to share with you all kind of what their template is when they work with the chapter on recruitment planning. We'll share this out, obviously, with the recording tomorrow or Friday, so that if you have the desire to use that template and adjust depending on your chapter, depending on what your needs are, you'll be allowed to, or you'll be able to do that with this template here. So what we'll do real quick, Josh, is I will set this up. So let me go ahead and pull this up for us. So give me just 1 second here, and we'll make sure this happens. All right. All right, Josh, go ahead and take it away in terms of kind of the recruitment plan and what we're seeing in front of us.
Cool. Thank you. Um, yeah, so when I go on campuses and help out chapters with recruitment, this is kind of the template that I use. I change it up depending on where I am, what chapter I'm working with, but for the most part, this is what it looks like. And if I've worked with your chapter, Sam's worked with your chapter before, you've probably seen something like this. I'm a big proponent of writing things down. I think that when I write stuff down, things are actually going to get done, and I can hold myself accountable, then other people can hold me accountable for doing it. So this is super helpful to have. But starting off at the top, we have our priorities, right? So where are the points in your chapter that you want to improve? So obviously, this being Amplify, we're assuming that recruitment is probably priority number one, right? The highest priority. Maybe, finances are a worry, so that could be put in priority number two. And maybe you have brotherhood, philanthropy, social, presence on campus and whatnot. And you can put that in priority three, four, five, however many that you need. And underneath that are improvement points for each priority. So, what exactly do you want to improve based upon those priorities, right? Like, yeah, you want to improve recruitment, but like how, right? Like, do you have a lot of people showing up, but you're just not closing the deal? Do you have no one showing up? In terms of P&Ms, do you have low member engagement? So those are kind of those improvement points are the areas of within that priority that you want to improve upon. Um, and moving on, recruitment benchmarks. These are each time points, right? So, like, when are you going to check in with yourself and see, like, hey, this is what I've accomplished and this is what I need to accomplish, right? So, for example, for one of the chapters I'm working with, one of the time points was by the end of 2024, by RLA, which is in a month, by spring break, which is at the end of March, and then by the end of the spring semester, right? Those were four great time points for us to check in and see how we're doing with recruitment. So, like, how many people do you want on your P&M list? Do you want 100 by the end of the school year, or do you want 50, and just keep gradually increasing it as you go on? And then how many bids do you want to extend, and how many do you want accepted as well? Like, how many do you actually want to close a deal? Because we can all go out there and just fire away bids, but we actually got to get those guys in the door and to stay there, right? Um, and same thing with the priorities. Add as many time points as you need to check in, right? You and your recruitment team can utilize these to schedule your meetings around, right? Like, all right, maybe throughout, all these time points, at each time point, we'll have, a 1 to 2 hour meeting of how can we improve ourselves going into the next time point. Um, so hopefully that's a little helpful to all you guys. And moving on, this is kind of bringing those two pieces together. Like starting now, like what can you actually do right now? Right after you complete, filling all this out, like can you, set up a recruitment committee? Can you set up more frequent meetings with the recruitment committee? More brotherhood events? Can you figure out your finances better right now? Can you immediately go out there and start tabling right now? All these things are the starting now piece is kind of stuff that you don't really have to plan a whole lot for. It's just like right now, right at this moment, we don't have to wait for that time point to come by. Like, what can we do right now to improve upon all those priorities that we listed above? And then the, hey, if you can go up a little bit. Yeah. And then under the time points is you list all the priorities that you have, right? So with that recruitment, like how exactly are you going to hit those benchmarks that we listed in the time points above? Like how exactly are you going to hit, a P&M list of 100? How are you exactly are you going to get 20 bids extended with 15 accepted? What can you actually do at that time point? And some of these, like as you can see, I listed continue points listed above. Some of them will be very similar to that, like starting now section. Maybe time point two is very similar to time point one, but there could be additional things that with, you know, campus events or whatnot that's going on that you can plan for, right? Like maybe homecoming is going on and you can list that in time point two and you don't have to do that. You don't have to start planning that like right now, right? So hopefully all of these plans kind of help you and your team hold each other accountable. And you can even send this out to your chapter. That way everyone knows, like, all right, these are the priorities that we all have. And now your general members, your exec board members, your recruitment committees, and any other committees can hold you and your exec board accountable for actually hitting all these goals.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Josh. I think big thing as we're looking at this, I think hits kind of what we've been talking about tonight so far, right? Of those benchmarks, how are we measuring success? Opportunities in here to say, okay, who on my recruitment team is the lead person on this, right? So who's that point person who's going to take, um, this starting now, right? And what are some of those actionable items that we're having? Great example of saying, okay, what are those benchmarks? What are those time points that are going to allow for us to, one, create our goals, but then also measure what those goals are moving forward. I think another piece that could definitely be added, and again, for you guys on this call, great opportunity to just use this as a starting point with your recruitment plans, right? And so, let this give you inspiration. You can use this. Josh and Sam, they did the work for you. Now utilize this, add to it, do what you know or you feel is going to be best for your chapter. So, if you want to add a section around membership criteria and what we're looking for there, that's a big piece. Timing and scheduling is really, I think, down here and kind of like that starting now. What are those time points? What are those things that we need to be doing? I think ultimately, even these priority pieces, when we're thinking recruitment plan, I think Josh and I both had conversation around, yeah, highest priority is recruitment in a recruitment plan, but those priorities two, three, four, five may all have a really big impact on how we recruit, right? Priority two might say, hey, we have a big priority on brotherhood. And so how are we going to improve upon our brotherhood, which is clearly going to help somebody feel as though they could belong and be part of this organization, right? Priority three might be finances. How are we going to ensure we're budgeting properly and doing those pieces again, allowing for us to be more successful in the recruitment realm. So, again, utilize this. If you all are interested in sitting down and working through this recruitment plan with one of us, again, please feel free to reach out. We want to sit down and help you all recruit or create what that looks like. And then obviously, as we'll talk about next week, how are we implementing all of these things that we've actually talked about in the way that they need to be implemented? Because it's great to put everything on paper. Then we have to go execute what that looks like because those words aren't going to necessarily do the work for us. Sam or Tristan, anything to add about kind of the recruitment plan piece?
Yeah, I'll add something really quick. This is just an outline or a general view of what a recruitment plan looks like, but every chapter is going to look different. Every campus is different. And obviously your priorities are different. So definitely feel free to add or remove anything that you think might be necessary or not. Um, like the starting now point, that's going to be different from every campus, right? You're going to have different traditions on your campus. Rush week is a different week everywhere, so everything's going to look different. Feel free to obviously add to this if you want to. Um, I don't know, Tristan, you got anything else to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, it's easy to get in the mindset of, like trying to compare yourself to really large chapters on your campus, but you have to really focus on like your needs as a group first, because that in turn is what's gonna help you grow. It's not, trying to outdo, other chapters on campus or, try and compete in that sort of sense.
Yeah. Thank you both. Yeah, Tristan, I think that's a great point. I think Sam, great point as well, is like everything, it's going to look different depending on your chapter. I think Tristan, that's also a good thing to keep in mind as you all are creating a plan is really thinking about, are we creating a plan and this plan is being created because of stuff we think we need to be doing, but isn't true to who we are as an organization, as a fraternity, how we run recruitment, or is this truly how we're going to be the most successful moving forward? Right. And a lot of that in creating that plan is going to help you in not only recruiting the individuals, but then also retaining those members moving forward. Biggest thing we don't want is to do the classic bait and switch, right? I'm recruiting and I'm creating a plan that is really based off what I think we should be, what I think we should be doing, stuff we never do as a chapter. And so if I'm recruiting Josh, Sam, and Tristan, and the three of them are seeing Delta Upsilon on my campus doing, with a recruitment plan and doing things that the chapter never does, what happens is they get super interested, they join, and in 3 weeks they're going to look at me and go, Hayden, like, uh, this is not what it seems like it was during recruitment. Um, and then they're going to now start questioning, hey, should I, you know, not join? Is this really where I want to be? All of those pieces. So I think to Tristan's point, create that plan that is genuine and authentic to your chapter, and understanding, hey, this is who we are and this is how we're going to be. And again, that I think this incorporates all of it. Where do we need to start? What are the things we need to be working on? What are the things that we need to be incorporating within our plan? Who are we actually looking for? All of those pieces. And once you're kind of understanding of that, you're going to be able to go recruit those individuals. And it goes back to that tactic last week. I think it was tactic 8 or 9. Be transparent, right? And have that transparency within the recruitment realm. And that's going to allow for guys to really understand the chapter that they're looking at in the recruitment that they're going through. Uh, So thank you, three. Again, we'll send that out with the recording here in the next couple of days, and we'll make that available online. And Josh and I were just talking about making that available through the Friday Fast Break as well. So we'll make sure you all have that. If for some reason you don't get it, please go ahead and reach out to us. We'll make sure to get that to you. All right. Any questions at all? Feel free to throw those in the chat or just unmute yourself. So I'll give everyone a couple minutes to see if we have any questions. All right. So not seeing or hearing any. As a reminder, next session is next Wednesday, the 22nd at 8 p.m. Eastern. That will be our last session for at least the winter block of Amplify DU. I think I will note that we do have an entire summer block of Amplify DU that will prepare us for fall recruitment. Next session is talking about what are best practices in terms of executing and implementing our recruitment plans. At any point, if you again want to set up a meeting with us to go over a recruitment plan. If you have any questions as you're moving forward in your recruitment right now, I know some groups that I'm working with, that Josh are working with, that Sam are working with, are just started recruitment in the middle of recruitment. If you have anything that comes up, please reach out to us. But other than that, really appreciate everyone's time. Like I said, we'll get this recording out to everyone. Of course, you can then share that with your chapters. We'll get this online. We'll get you all that recruitment template. Really appreciate your time. Hopefully, everyone has a good rest of your night, and looking forward to seeing everyone next week for our last session of our Winter Amplify.